The Battle of Britain, a detailed look. Overview and stakes. The Battle of Britain, July-October 1940, was the first major military campaign fought entirely in the air. Germany needed to destroy the RAF to achieve air superiority over the English Channel, which was essential for their planned invasion of Britain, Operation Sea Lion. If Britain fell, Nazi Germany would dominate all of Western Europe, and the war's outcome would have been dramatically different. The opposing forces. RAF Fighter Command. Commander Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding, a defensive genius who had spent years preparing Britain's air defenses. Key aircraft Hawker Hurricane, Workhorse, shot down more German aircraft, and Supermarine Spitfire, faster, better at high altitude, became the iconic symbol. Strength. Started with about 640 fighters and roughly 1,400 pilots. Advantages. Fighting over home territory. Integrated radar defense system. Pilot recovery. The Luftwaffe. Commander Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring, who fatally underestimated the RAF or. Key aircraft Messerschmitt. Beef 109 fighters, excellent but limited range. 110 twin-engine fighters, vulnerable. Junkers Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers, effective but slow, and various bombers like the Heinkel, He-111, and Dornier Do-17. Strength, about 2,600. Aircraft, including roughly 900 fighters. Challenges, operating at extreme range. Downed pilots became prisoners. Inferior intelligence about RAF strength. The Dowding system, Britain's secret weapon. What truly set Britain apart was the world's first integrated air defense network. Chain-home radar stations lined the coast, detecting incoming raids at distances up to 100 miles. This early warning was revolutionary. Instead of keeping fighters on constant patrol, exhausting pilots and wasting fuel, aircraft could be scrambled when threats were detected. Observer Corps posts tracked aircraft once they crossed the coast, where radar coverage became unreliable. Fighter command operations rooms processed all this information. The famous plotting tables showed raid positions in real time, with controllers directing squadrons to intercept. The system used a filter room to eliminate duplicate reports and a color-coded clock system to show how recent information was. Sector airfields controlled smaller groups of squadrons, allowing quick tactical responses, while the main operations room managed the big picture. This system allowed Britain's outnumbered fighters to be at the right place, at the right time, rather than blindly searching for enemy formations. The battle's phases. Phase 1, Channel Battles, July 10th, August 7th. The Luftwaffe attacked coastal convoys and ports, testing RAF responses and attempting to draw out fighters for destruction. This phase was relatively inconclusive. Both sides took losses, but the Luftwaffe failed to achieve the quick victory Göring expected. The RAF learned valuable combat lessons, and British morale held firm despite shipping losses. Phase 2, Attacking the Airfields, August 8th, September 6th. This was the critical phase where Britain came closest to defeat. The Luftwaffe shifted to targeting RAF airfields, radar stations, and aircraft factories. Eagle Day, August 13th, was supposed to begin the destruction of the RAF, but poor weather and coordination problems limited its impact. However, the sustained attacks that followed were devastating. Key sector airfields like Biggin Hill, Kenley, Hornchurch, and North Weald were repeatedly bombed. Hangars were destroyed, runways cratered, and operations disrupted. Some stations became barely functional. The crisis point came in late August and early September. The RAF was losing fighters faster than factories could replace them. But more critically, experienced pilots were being killed or wounded faster than new ones could be trained. Squadrons were being pulled from the battle exhausted and under strength, with replacement pilots arriving with minimal training. Some had as little as 10 hours in. Spitfires or Hurricanes, before being thrown into combat. Dowding was rationing his forces carefully, rotating squadrons through quiet sectors to rest and rebuild, but the mathematics were becoming unsustainable. Fighter command was perhaps 1 to 2 weeks from operational collapse when the Luftwaffe made its fatal mistake. Phase 3, the Blitz begins, September 7th onwards. On September 7th, the Luftwaffe switched its main effort from RAF airfields to bombing London. This decision followed an RAF bombing raid on Berlin, itself retaliation for German bombs accidentally dropped on London. Hitler was furious and demanded attacks on British cities. Why this was Germany's mistake. The change in strategy gave fighter commands battered airfields time to repair and recover. While London suffered terribly, the beginning of the Blitz. The RAF could rebuild its strength. The Luftwaffe was now flying deeper into Britain, giving fighters more time to intercept and attack. September 15th, Battle of Britain Day. The climactic day came when the Luftwaffe launched 2 massive raids on London. The RAF scrambled every available squadron, and the air battles were visible from the ground. Claims at the time suggested 185. German aircraft destroyed, actual losses were about 60. But the psychological impact was enormous. Churchill witnessed the battle from the operations room at number 11 group and famously asked, "What reserves have we?" Air Vice Marshal Park replied, "There are none." The Luftwaffe had failed to achieve the knockout blow. 2 days later, Hitler postponed Operation Sea Lion indefinitely. The people who fought. The few, Churchill's famous phrase, referred to the approximately 2,900 air crew who served in fighter command during the battle. About 544 were killed during the battle itself. International force. The RAF included significant numbers of foreign pilots. Polish pilots, 145 total. Many had escaped Poland and France, already combat veterans, and fought with particular determination. Number 303. Squadron became the highest scoring unit. Czechoslovak pilots, 88, also escaped after their country fell. Canadians, New Zealanders, Australians, Empire forces. Americans, 9, volunteers despite U.S. neutrality, Irish South Africans, Southern Rhodesians, Jamaicans, Palestinians, Belgians, Free French, and others. The ground crews were equally vital, the Irks, who kept aircraft flying through exhausting around-the-clock work, often under bombardment. Average age. Most fighter pilots were in their early 20s. Some squadron commanders were barely 25. The physical and mental strain was immense, flying, multiple sorties daily, seeing friends killed, never knowing if the next mission would be their last. Tactics and combat. RAF tactics. Squadrons typically flew in formations of 12 aircraft. The standard fighter command attack was by sections of 3 in Vic formation, though this proved less effective than the German Finger 4 formation. Many squadron leaders adapted tactics as they learned. Height was life. Getting above the enemy was crucial. Spitfires and Hurricanes would typically climb to intercept, trying to gain altitude advantage. Diving attacks with the sun behind were most effective. Hurricane versus Spitfire roles. Though the Spitfire gets more glory, Hurricanes were more numerous and shot down more aircraft. Tactics often had Hurricanes, attacking bomber formations while Spitfires dealt with fighter escorts. The Hurricane was sturdier and easier to repair. The Spitfire was faster and climbed better. German challenges. The Bf-109's limited range, about 20-30 minutes over, England before needing to return, was a critical limitation. Bf-109 pilots often had to break off combat to avoid running out of fuel. Bomber crews felt increasingly vulnerable and abandoned. The outcome and significance. Immediate impact. By late October, it was clear the Luftwaffe had failed. The RAF had maintained air superiority over Britain. Operation Sea Lion was permanently cancelled. Britain would remain in the war. Strategic importance. This was Nazi Germany's first major defeat, shattering the myth of German invincibility. It kept Britain in the war as a base for eventual liberation of Europe. American support, Lend-Lease, could flow to Britain. The Soviet Union would not face Germany alone when invaded in 1941. Losses. The RAF lost about 1,547 aircraft and 544 aircrew killed. The Luftwaffe lost approximately 1,887 aircraft with about 2,600 aircrew killed or captured. Legacy. The battle showed that radar and integrated air defense could defeat a numerically superior force. Strategic bombing alone couldn't force a nation to surrender. Air superiority was essential for modern warfare. Britain's defensive preparation paid dividends. The Battle of Britain remains one of the most decisive battles in history, a turning point when Hitler's conquests were finally checked, and when, as Churchill said, the few saved Western civilization from Nazi domination.